This is Conversations with Caregivers, which is going to cover a wide range of caregiving experience. Today, we're going to talk about caring for parents. It's a lot. And the one thing I think we all have in common is that we're all exhausted and we're all flying by the seat of our pants. So my guest today, I feel like a talk show host. My guest today
Right.
is Sue Fagalde Lick. I'll tell you a little and then I'll let her introduce herself. I met Sue on Substack, where she has a newsletter called Can I Do It Alone? And you'll tell us why that and who you were caretaking in your life. Sue?
Well, good day. Good morning here in Oregon. It's afternoon where Jody is. Yes, can I do it alone? It was a natural progression. I didn't have children. I've been married twice, divorced once, and then the second husband died of Alzheimer's. And so now I'm by myself. So the question is, can I do it alone? And I'm looking for ways to figure out all the stuff from finances to leaky toilets to going out to eat by yourself, all the things, because it's a challenge. I was in the hospital recently, and it's not an easy experience no matter how much family you have, but if you have none, it's a real challenge. So there's a lot of things. And I was on the other side, for once on the other side of the bed, because I'm very used to being the caregiver sitting in the visitor chair and running around taking care of things. But now I was the patient. So I took care of my husband. He started with dementia in 2002. In 2009, he went to a series of nursing homes, and he passed in 2011. And 2013, my dad, who lives in California, started a whole series of medical adventures, determined to stay home by himself. That he had heart surgery, he broke his hip, he broke
Your
his
dad, your
leg.
dad had taken care of your mother before this, right?
Yes, she died of cancer about the time that Fred was starting with dementia. And yeah, Dad took care of her, and it was very hard for him, and he wouldn't let anybody help. So that's a whole issue.
Did,
But
did you have do
yes,
you have
I've seen
siblings?
it.
Do you have
I
siblings at
have a
home?
brother. Yes, yes. We both lived at a distance from our parents, and
Intentionally?
to get out of San Jose.
Okay.
Not to
I
leave
mean,
our parents, but to get away from San Jose and Silicon Valley.
so he took care of your mother and
He took
then
care.
he got ill or he got old. Did he get ill or old or both?
Oh, both, really. I mean, he was in his 90s. He was 80 when Mom died, and, you know, did okay for a while, but in his 90s, I mean, he had his heart surgery at 91, and it was an experimental surgery at the time, which is common now, but there was a lot of debate about whether they could do it at his age, and they did. And he flourished from that, but he
Did
kept
he have
falling
someone
down.
at home when he came home from the hospital? Did you have aides then
He
or you
spent a
guys have been
couple of,
doing it all on your own? That's my question.
no, my dad spent a couple of weeks at my brother's house, and then he went home. And I was very grateful for that, because then I could come home to Oregon and get back to work.
He was a tough cookie.
He was. He was.
If you had to choose between taking care of your mom and taking care of your dad, who would you have chosen?
Oh, my mom by far.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't get to choose, and my heart always goes out to people who was in a support group uh, for caregivers of parents with dementia, and I had somebody turn and look at me and say, "You like your mother, like you enjoy her company," and I'm like, "Yeah, I actually do," And this
Yeah.
was in the early crazy. Now there's not much company, but
Mm.
and I said, "Yeah, I really do," and he had left his home when he was like 19 and never looked back. And now his mother had dementia. His father was caretaking her and doing a shitty job. So there he was, caretaking both his parents, who he had hoped never to see again. And I don't know how people do that. Like I know you had a little bit of a difficult relationship and he wasn't the easiest.
Well, it's like I adored him, but it was like loving it. I was thought of him like a porcupine.
Ah,
If you get close, you're gonna get hurt. I mean, he broke my heart so many times over the years. But yeah, I was the one who was free enough to take care. So then I'm doing all the intimate stuff. The end, he couldn't get out of bed. So, I'm doing all the personal stuff and feeding him and taking care of his meds and all the things. And I couldn't please him no matter what. If I was gone for a few minutes, to be like, where the hell you been? So it was rough. It was very rough.
I got a couple of questions with that. The no pleasing is one thing, and the dealing with caring for a parent of a different gender is also a whole nother thing. I also had a complicated relationship with my father, but one of the things I'm grateful for is that I don't have any qualms about caring for my mother and her personal whatever, like give her a suppository, boop, fine, we're done. But the idea of having to move my father's parts around, and not even just even when he's not with it, it's just something that I'm going to ask you, like, how does that affect you walking away from that? It's kind of like you're never supposed to be in that position where you're handling your dad's parts.
It's traumatizing. It really was. I mean, I was literally wiping and cleaning his back end, and he was totally lucid. He couldn't
Oh,
move, but he was completely lucid. And he's telling me, get in there. It's not clean enough. You got to do it. And it's, so handling his urine and his feces, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It was about 1,000 degrees in his bedroom, which didn't help. It was summer, but it was really awful. It was truly awful.
what did you do to offload that? Like, you can't walk around with that. So either you're going to therapy or you're drinking too much or you're dumping on somebody else. Excuse me, I don't mean dumping, but offloading to a friend or crying in your car or
I did a lot of crying in my car. I'm a writer, so I did a lot of writing. Occasionally, I would call a friend and say, "I'm going out of my mind," but I couldn't. He'd be like, "Who are you talking to?" What,
so
So
you
it
spent a
was,
lot of time living there.
yeah, and he didn't have Wi-Fi, which seems like a small thing, but it's not.
Wow.
Yeah, I months at a time I would have to give up everything here in Oregon, leave my dog, leave my house, and go to California and take care of him because
Were you
nobody
working?
else was. I was freelance writing and directing the choir at our local church, which was a paid job. I was the music director, and so it was a hassle every time I had to go. But I went.
It's one of my taglines is that love and resentment can exist at the same time,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
which is, that's the older I get, the more I understand that kind of stuff. But like when you grow up, it's like things are clear. You love this one, you don't like that one. It's like, and it's not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just life is just messy.
Well, it
So
is, and
I
in
have
between when after my husband died, my dad and I were both widowed, and we had that in common, and we were on the phone all the time. And in some ways, he was the one person I could talk to about this stuff.
because he understood.
Yeah, yeah, we were both alone, and he'd be like, "How do you hard boil an egg?" And I'd be like, "My lights are flickering. What do I do?" We could, So he was a helper in that way, but he would not listen to reason about care or maybe he'd need to change his living situation. Dad was
And
dad, and he didn't listen to people at all. He was not a
did
listener.
he pass at home or did you get him into a facility?
He passed in a nursing home, and that was ugly too. He'd just
Do you
gone into hospice, and I walked in at 9 o'clock in the morning to visit, and a guy I'd never seen before was cleaning him. He was naked with the door open, and he looked weird. And I said, "Is he still breathing?" And then this aide took a look and said, "Oh, no, ma'am."
Like he didn't realize that your father had passed while he was washing him until you asked?
Right, right.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah, I struggle with whether or not to move my mother into a facility, and she's well past being able to function in a assisted living and even in memory care.
right.
And as much as I resent it and I bitch about it, and I'm like, how long is this going to go on? I couldn't put her in a nursing home. It's just, luckily, knock wood, and I'm aware of this privilege. We have enough money coming in from her that we can afford to pay. I have aides from 9 to 5 every day.
Yeah. Well, we
Uh,
had we had people coming in. He kept firing them, you because
that's right. He was lucid. That's right.
he was, and the last time that he came home, he said, We're not letting you come home unless you hire somebody to help. This you just can't do it." And we did. We hooked up with an agency, and they kept sending people out, and he kept firing them. It didn't help. And this is my dad. It's not me saying, I don't want any blacks. I don't want any Filipinos. I don't want. It's like, Dad, come
That kind of
on.
narrows down the field of caregivers. I know
I
some of the nursing homes and memory care units. I was just reading, they are having staffing problems because of the restrictions on Haitians right
mm,
now.
yeah.
And I I've had wonderful. I've been so lucky. I've had some real weirdos. Like the lady who used to dress my mother up like a Barbie doll and come in early, and she would curl her hair and spray it and dress her up and then take her out and show her off. And it was like, this is just weird.
A
It's
little.
like she's not a Barbie doll and she's not your mom. Um,
Oh my God.
but we've been really, really lucky. And yeah. But so your husband passed before your father. I was talking to
Hmm.
Sue before this because I was aware, and that's, I think, where probably Can I Do This Alone probably cropped up from, was after your husband passed, yes?
Yeah, it was a few years, but yeah, yeah, for
Because suddenly
sure.
you're living in Oregon in this, you're not rural, but you're not in town either.
Right, right. Yeah.
Um, so kind of a little woodsy and with by yourself suddenly.
Hmm.
And we're older.
Hmm.
And like you said, you go into the hospital, you have something happen, who's there? You had to wonder that kind of stuff when you were taking care of your dad. Like, okay, I'm the kid and this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it whether I like it or not, because this is my obligation as a child. This is, there's a
Yeah.
word for it, familial, whatever. Somebody better than me knows it. Um,
Yeah.
Filial. Is it filial? Is it filial?
That sounds right. That
That
sounds
sounds
right.
right. Okay. Um,
And yes, it
Familial.
is. As the kid, and my brother could help on weekends, but we were the ones who were running around getting things that he might need, dealing with the money, talking to doctors and nurses, running for help if he's pushing his button, nobody's coming. We were the ones handling things
do you worry about who's going to do that for you?
very
Especially since you
much.
just had this health scare.
Very much so. I got hauled to a hospital 60 miles from here, and I didn't have anything but the clothes I was wearing and my phone. So I didn't have any stuff. I didn't. There were things like, did I leave this thing on at my house? Is everything okay at home? Yeah, I had to depend on my neighbors, but
And
I
like I
didn't.
said, you're pretty isolated too. So it's not like my next door neighbor is it's on the other side of this wall. Um,
Ah,
you know, you're in a different situation,
hmm,
especially when you came home.
yeah, very true, very true. My neighbor came to get me because I'm like, okay, I'm 60 miles away. I don't have a car, and I can barely walk. I can't drive. How am I going to get home? My neighbor came. God bless him. He came and drove me home, and I had various friends. Another neighbor came in and helped me shower and take care of things. But they haven't been around too much lately. And some people check in occasionally, but they think because I'm home and I'm starting to function that I'm well, and I'm not. And so I'm frightened sometimes.
You do have, I know, a pretty robust connection with your church, with the church, and that's helpful. But for a lot of us, I'm sober. I have it with AA.
Right.
But for a lot of us, if you don't have some sort of when you're a young parent, you have PTA or whatever, there's this some sort of
Right.
community.
Right.
But if you don't have some sort of community, it's pretty frightening to go like, oh, I'm on my own, at least with some sort of community, even if you're not close to people, you feel like you've got some sort of net.
But how much can you ask of them? I think that's the thing. Can you ask them? Who's your 3 o'clock in the morning friend? If you wake up and you got a pain and you need to go to the hospital now, who are you going to call? So it's that kind of who's going to help you in the shower if you really can't do it by yourself.
There was an article recently about choosing those people. Was
Mm-hmm.
it you? Did you write this?
I
Like,
don't know whether I wrote it or maybe I put it in the Substack, put a clip,
because it was
a
about
link.
choosing those people, and they're not necessarily always your closest people. I have
Right.
my um my power of attorney and my healthcare people, but who I trust with my estate, who I trust making decisions on when to pull the plug, it's not necessarily, they're not necessarily right here. For me, one of the struggles is not only asking for help, but accepting help.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
know.
feel like I owe you if I let you help me.
I know. I'm thinking right now, what am I going to do for my neighbors across the street who helped me so much? It's like I have to do something for them, but what?
I had a gallbladder attack. It was an excruciating pain. I didn't know what it was. So it was even scarier. And I had
Right.
mom and the aide had gone home. And I was like, there's no way I can just white knuckle through this. And I had to go to the emergency room. It took so much. I had to be in so much pain before I called my neighbor, Lulu. And she's always volunteering. She's like, I'll just sit with your mom for, an hour if you want to take. And I never say yes because I don't know if I don't want to be more involved in her life or I don't want her more involved in mine, or I feel like whatever. I feel like I could do this. And it's like sometimes you just get to a point where it's like, no, you can't. And
Mhm.
that thing of putting the oxygen mask over your face before the baby, that
Right.
you have to take care of yourself.
Right. I did. The last time when I went to the hospital, I had a friend who was coming over to take some of my books to a bookstore, and she was on her way, and I'm sitting on the couch and I can't breathe, and I'm thinking, if I was a dog, they'd be putting me down about now. So I texted her and said, "Can you take me to the ER?" And of course she said yes, and she sat with me all day, you know, and she didn't mind. you know, it
I want to
is.
touch on finance.
Ah, yes.
Finance with your dad, particularly. Now, you're going back and forth. Is that and if I'm out of line, just tell me. But whether that's on, it's hard. Long distance caregiving has a lot of stuff that people, Nan's nodding her head. I know you've got family in California, and there flights are not cheap, hotels are not cheap, going back and forth, missing work. Um, uh,
Yep.
Durable medical equipment that has to be bought,
I
are they
did.
on Medicaid yet? Or, like all that, the financial stuff, was that in place when he got sick? What
Oh,
happened?
my dad was a very frugal man. That's part of the heartbreaking part of him. It cost me at least $1,000 every time I went down, just in costs of going and coming home, plus what I lost from work. So it was expensive. And sometimes he would write me a check for $100 and say, "Is that enough?" And it's like, "Sure, thanks, Dad." But yeah, but not even close. So it was very expensive. He could handle. He had a lot of money. It turned out which we didn't totally know until he died, but he could handle the caregiver's fees and things, which I
That's
think it was
helpful.
I think it was 25 an hour then. Now I read the average is 35.
That's through an agency. If you go
Through
privately,
an
you can get,
agency.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like my neighbor who used to do caregiving said, "I'll do it for $20 for you if you want." But yeah, so he can handle that. The nursing home fees, we wouldn't even tell him what it was by the end because he wasn't ambulatory. He had to be helped in and out of a wheelchair. He couldn't even stand on his own. So, each little thing adds more money to the cost. And it was a hell of a lot of money.
Well, it also adds to the stress and the resentment. And it's
Yes.
like I
Yes.
would feel if I discovered he had all this money afterwards, I'd be pissed going like, wait, we could have made life easier if I
I
had
know, he had
known.
holes in his sheets, for Pete's sake. And it's like, yeah. But we had to have him declared incompetent toward the end because we couldn't get into his counts to deal with anything. And we had to be able to pay the bills and such.
And you get along with your brother.
Yes, thank God, very
Very
much so.
lucky. Usually, frequently, it's one person in the family that becomes the caregiver, and there's friction. Let's just call it friction.
Yeah.
People always have opinions, but they're not showing up to do the work. Oh,
Yeah.
that's my friend Jan said your dad sounds like hers.
Oh, I'm
You know
sorry.
what?
But my brother and I get along. I don't get along with his wife, but my brother he has the kind of job he just absolutely could not leave during the week. But he did come on weekends and he was very appreciative. And he took care of all the financial stuff. So I'm extremely grateful. I did not have that help with my husband. I did it all,
How many books have you published? I forgot to mention Sue is a poet and an author. And how many books have you published? A lot.
As of this week, 17.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is. It is.
And the one I want to pick up is the one about that you wrote, I guess, assuming you wrote it after your husband passed.
Yeah. Yeah.
How soon after your husband passed did you start caring for your dad?
2 years.
Oh, okay.
That's when his heart went kaflooey. We have a family tradition of heart problems.
No, so you had some grieving time. It wasn't like you had to just jump right into it where, okay.
Yeah, and I
All
did a
right.
lot of my grieving, when Fred was sick, because, it was,
Right.
with Alzheimer's, you're losing them a piece at a time every day. So there's a lot of grieving that happens before they actually die.
You and I will talk about dementia and spouses another time because I do want to dig into that because there's such a change in the powers. There's a change in the power structure when you're taking care of a parent, especially
Oh,
when it's
yeah.
your dad. Yeah. So the change in relationships and power structures is something I want to cover at another time when we actually use the whole half hour because I want to hear about how it changed the relationship. We'll schedule that.
Okay.
I'll give you some breathing room on that one. I'm not asking. If any of you would like to share, just unmute
Since you
yourself and
asked,
pop up.
yeah, since you asked, he had a mysterious neurological ailment that lasted almost 20 years and just got progressively worse. And he died about a year and
Mysterious
a
as
half
in you
ago at
don't want to talk
93.
about it, or
What's that?
mysterious as in you don't want to talk about it, or mysterious as in
They didn't know what caused it or exactly what it was.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
He retired at 76 only because he had to,
Right.
because of that. But my mother now has dementia, which the doctor
Oh.
says was caused by her taking Valium since the 1970s. And well, Nan has heard some of the stories about her crazy behavior, but it's been interesting.
I would love Valium right about now. That's what I keep saying. I would like just a little bit of
Don't
Valium.
do it. Don't do
I'm
it.
not going
do
to.
it.
I did in the 70s, but it's like, a small wheelbarrow full of Valium would make life a little easier now.
Well, when I was taking care of my husband, I got addicted to Klonopin, which is
Really?
cousin of Xanax. Yeah, it's so hard to get off it. So don't get on it.
Yeah,
The
I've had
benzo,
friends that have become addicted to Klonopin.
oh,
It's
it's
No,
so
benzos,
beautiful when you
long-term.
on it.
Benzos are the worst.
They
but
When
they
are.
feel the best.
yeah, they feel amazing, but boy, oh boy,
The withdrawal
Yeah,
is really, really
with
bad.
it's
really
awful. It's
bad.
just awful.
For those who haven't met Danny before, my friend Danny is a nurse, so
Hey, Danny.
he's got the medical information.
I
That,
was going to say the thing about caring for parents. I came from a family that was severely affected by alcoholism. Nobody
mm,
in my immediate family drank, but my mother's father drank heavily, and the trauma that she suffered, she brought into our family. So, one of the things that happened to me as a result of that was because of the chaos in the household. I did not bond with either my mother or my father in the way that
mm,
people, I was going to say people usually do. I don't know if they usually do or don't, but I didn't have a connection like that. And when I left, I couldn't wait to leave home at 18. And I never looked back, except when I went to nursing school. I had to go back to live with them for 4 years after I'd lived away for 12, which was quite a thing. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that when at the end of their lives, I didn't have a connection that would have made it feel natural to be their caregivers in the ways that you're talking about. But I had a sister, I have a younger sister who was their caregiver, and she lived near them, and she
mm.
was visit them every day throughout the period of the end of their lives. And we're talking about a couple of decades. And I would go to Charlotte to give her respite so that she and her wife could go away, and there would be somebody in the house. And I could do that. But there were times that my mother made it very clear that she didn't like having me there. And so I started staying at my sister's house and then just going in and looking in on them. Um, something with my older sister, it was much worse than them. Betty has been her primary caregiver, and she resented me from the day that my mom and dad brought me home from the hospital.
Mm.
Well, I was just
It-
going to interrupt and say that's one of the things, when you're caregiving a parent, if you're looking at it from the outside, it just looks like child taking care of parent or what,
Right.
but there's 50, 60 years of emotional baggage that you're dragging
Yes.
into the room and shoving it next to
Yes.
their emotional baggage. And that has to be dealt with, in some form. You can't just ignore it because it's there. Um, in some
we
ways,
came to we came
it's
to a
easier to
place of
care for a
resolution.
stranger.
Right, right. We came to a place of resolution at the end, so it was a lot better, but that had to do with a lot of resolution of my coming to a place of acceptance of them as they were. So
Mm. Yes.
so that there was not this kind of thing going on at the end. And my older sister, however, hated my being there when I would go to give my sister respite for her and made it known that she hated my being there.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So anyway, I just mentioned all that because when you don't have that kind of connection,
Yeah.
Which to this day, I don't have connections with people like other people have with people. When you talk about who am I going to ask to take me to the hospital, I do know people who I can ask that, but I live in Manhattan. Almost nobody I know has a car.
Right. Right.
So my choices are limited.
Yeah. Where you live makes a big difference in the whole living situation.
Yeah,
One
that's
of
my
the
two
things,
bits.
one of the things I have to look at that help keep my head above water is that my caregiving for my mother, and again, I'm lucky we have the AIDS, we liked each other beforehand, is that it has opened my heart in a way I did not expect. And I've been single most of my life. I mean, there's been people in and out and in and out and in and out, but seat fillers. They weren't really there for any other reason. It's like I needed a body. But I feel like when this is done, there'll be a space because I've learned about things about compassion. That's just my situation.
No, me too. Me too. I've changed. It is changed. It changes you. It has definitely opened me up and become more compassionate, and also taught me to let things that don't matter go. It does change you.
Is there anything, speaking of change, if you could go back, which you can't, but we're going to be in a magic time machine for like 3 minutes, going back to your dad, because that's what we're focusing on as dad, or even on your mom, whether you would have stepped in and made her life, say, Dad, go to, Jamaica for 2 weeks while I take this over. If you could have done anything, would you have changed it? Is there something you wish you had known then that you know now?
I probably wouldn't have moved to Oregon. I mean, San Jose was getting unbearable, but I probably would have stayed there because I know I kind of broke my mother's heart when we moved. But, when we left, we didn't spend any time with my parents. They were self-sufficient and not interested in getting involved in our lives. And it's like, well, it's not going to make any difference whether I'm 10 miles or 700 miles away. But if I had known how much was going to hit the fan after we left, and, it would have probably been easier for me with my husband too if I'd stayed in California, but then I would have missed so much. So, you don't know.
How long after you moved till your mom got sick?
We moved in 96, 6 years.
Oh, that's not very long at all.
No.
Yeah, because I actually stayed here in New York because of my mother, and she wasn't sick. We've just been emotionally entangled like a ganglia cyst, and always felt like I have to be within 30 minutes because if she's crying, I have to save her. So, and I look back and go, she met her first boyfriend when she was 70, her best boyfriend when she was 79. I could have gone all over the world, had a whole freaking life. I mean, I had a life, but I could have had a whole different life if I wasn't so emotionally crippled. But not. I mean, I don't.
No, a lot of people do that. And if I had children, I don't think I would have ever left. For better or worse, I would have stayed. But I figured they didn't give a rip anyway, to be honest. So we might as well go be happy. My husband was very happy here. So there's that. He had the opportunity. And, I got those 17 books. Most of them happened after we moved to Oregon.
Yeah.
That's
you have
a nice
to have
thing to
a
be
life.
able to say. Huh?
Yeah, you do.
You have to have a life of your own. And the thing that I learned after caregiving my father was that I gave up my life. But I gave up my life with my father my whole life. We were enmeshed. Go ahead. Jody, did you want to say something?
You can continue.
Okay, I will. Thank you. I just the many talents of Jody Shadal.
We love Jody. We do.
I love her so much.
Sorry. Apparently mom woke up. So
congratulations.
We'll see how long it lasts.
So what I was going to say was that the thing that I learned while caregiving my father, and I lived a distance away too, for the first time ever, I left trying to have a life when he got sick, and I still traveled and was with him and did what he needed until it gave me a nervous breakdown because I didn't learn that it was okay for me to say no to him.
Yeah.
And that the only way I knew in my codependence and my enmeshment to say no was to get sick myself
Yeah.
so that it
Yeah.
would
To all my
stop.
life.
Yeah.
All my life. Sickness
So
was
that
the
it-
card, the ticket
Well,
out.
because then you're not really saying no, and it's not your
Right,
fault.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. But I went to the extent of putting myself in the hospital for 2 months. Right. So what I learned from that experience was that I had a very unhealthy relationship with the man I loved more than anyone in the world,
Mm.
and that I needed to grow the fuck up and start a life. And he had to die for me to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my mother is still alive, and my difficult relationship. And I thank God that she has financial resources,
Yes.
because I don't think I can take care of her in that way, or
Yeah.
that I'm willing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I keep trying and I keep going back, and it's really hard. So I just want to acknowledge both of you and thank both of you for doing this, because it's huge and it's valuable. And we need this kind of community as people who are aging, who have older people. And I'm single, I have no children. I feel like I don't want to make plans about the future, which is probably really impractical. I don't have the financial resources that my mother has. And I have a sick brother, a very, very injured brother living in California. I'm in New York. And thank God he's got somebody helping him, because there's no way. I thought I'd move there and help out. I'd kill him
Yeah.
if I was there. I
I
would.
thought about that too. I love my brother, but he's got ways that I don't know if I could live with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw.
So,
I
so
read an
Ditto.
article about a 93-year-old wing walker. I think she's the oldest female wing walker. It's probably the oldest wing walker, but I don't know why they have to throw female in there. But
Yeah, really.
I thought, well, that looks like fun. And those are kind of my plans. Those are my end of life
you're going to
plans.
wing
It's like,
walk?
well, something like that,
Please don't.
So if you blow it, you fall off and you die. Is that
Yeah,
your plan?
cliff diving, something, hang gliding and letting go, something, I don't want it to drag out. I don't want to suffer. Those are my plans.
Me too.
Ditto. Me
And
too.
you don't
Me
always
too.
have the option, because like with dementia, you don't know until it's too late.
I
Yeah.
want to. I
What if
want
you
to.
do know? Is there
I
some
want.
kind of pill? I mean,
Well,
that's
that's
There
what I
something to
was
is.
think
just going to
about.
say. I want a cyanide pill that I can keep in a
Yeah.
little. Wait. In a little glass case with a little hammer that says "in emergency" or "time to go, break glass."
Cyanide is not a pleasant way to
Okay,
go.
what should I
Second of all,
do?
Something.
second of all,
Okay, can I get some?
There are
no,
books about that.
it's called
Okay,
Final
thank you,
Exit.
Danny B. Yeah,
Can you
final
find us all
exit
those books?
and
I'm serious.
the Hemlock Society
No,
books
I
and
want to hear Rosanna for a second.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
sorry. I know it's tricky on Zoom to break in, but no, my husband and I talk about this because we've seen what our parents went through, and it wasn't pretty, especially mine. And we don't have kids, but I wouldn't want to put this. I mean, my father wanted to die for years. My mother wants to die, and they're just, their lives are dragging on. How can we access that information? I'm about to turn 65, so I don't need it yet, hopefully, but
Well,
I want to be ready when the time
I'm going to
comes.
tell you, there's a book called Final Exit, and it
yeah.
outlines several different ways to do it. Seconal is the drug of choice, or was at one time the drug of choice for doctors that are allowed to do medically assisted
Mhm.
euthanasia.
We have that in Oregon. It's legal.
But it is not, dementia is not
Easy.
considered a terminal illness in all those states.
No,
So,
you can't use it for
but,
that.
um, when Seconal became, when medical euthanasia started becoming legal in the States, the cost of a lethal dose went from $50 to $3,000.
Of course.
because the big pharma is not going to help you. There are, it's starting in Canada, and it's going to move down here where you can, because dementia is not considered terminal, and that's where the big problems come in for people.
Mhm.
Mom and I read the book. Are you okay, Danny?
Oh, I was just, no, I'm
Okay,
listening
all
very
right.
closely.
Okay. Mom and I read the book, and what we decided on is helium, because you can, and
We're
not the
out
kind
laughing.
you get for the party balloons, but if you're inhaling straight helium, your brain understands that you're still breathing. So
Right.
you don't panic and you don't get scared, and your brain dies. And then eventually, because your brain is dead, your body, it takes like anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes, apparently. And that was our plan. And we did dry runs. We talked about, she'd always wanted to make her decision. She'd been hoarding pills since I was a child.
Wow.
When I went through them, they were like, expired antibiotics and decongestants and nothing that was going to help. But so we talked about this. And like I said, we did a dry
cute.
run. But what we didn't talk about, and I'm going to direct this to you, Rosanna, it's the kind of conversation that I tell people now who are starting to care for their parents, have this part of the conversation. What do you want me to do if you haven't said go? And you get to a point where you don't know me, you can't feed yourself, you can't make that decision anymore. Had we had that conversation and she given me a line, I would do it and not feel, I mean, I'd have to go through therapy, but I'm going to have to go through therapy no matter what.
Oh, for sure.
But so have that, and know that coming down from Canada and in a couple of places in Europe, you can set out a document that says, when I get to this point, I want you to take me out. Like when I no longer recognize my children, or when I can no longer use a fork, or whatever your line is, when I become fecal incontinent, kill me. And basically, it's giving the medical community the permission to do it. That's
Mhm.
starting to roll out.
I hope
But
so.
there are conversations that you have to have, and have with family members and friends and loved ones, because
Yeah.
everybody has to know.
Yeah, in Oregon, we have the Death with Dignity Act, and I know several people who have used it, and you can't do it with dementia because you have to be able to administer it to yourself. You have to be aware of what you're doing and
You have to
have
be
a
able to
witness use it.
sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
you have,
they give you a kit. They come out and meet with you, and they give you a kit with the meds that will do the job. But yeah, you have to be cognitively clear on what's going on, so it doesn't work for dementia. But people I know have done it.
So wish
but I
It's
what
a
you
guess,
way.
could.
I think of cases like my father's. He was ill for decades, and at the end, the last few years were really hard, but he wouldn't have had a way out like that. And I know a friend of a friend was living in Oregon, and his wife had MS and wanted to kill herself, but there was no way to do it because MS wasn't on the list, and she ended up
Oh,
hanging herself.
Oh,
So, and for my mother, whatever, she's 91, she's on hospice care, although she keeps on ticking. She's got her pulsed form all set up, so that specifies the level of care you want. And
right.
we changed that, so if she gets pneumonia again, no more antibiotics. So I feel like we're in a good place with her. But thinking ahead for us, it'll be good to feel like we have some options, because I don't want to drag on for years like that. And it may not come to that. We may not, we may be fine, but
Yeah.
My mother, just so
I,
you know, Rosanna, my mother was on hospice twice and kicked off because, as they said, she's not dying fast enough.
yeah, I know a lot of people whose mothers have been on and off hospice, and I'm like, my mother fell and broke her hip last October
Uh,
1st, and she keeps going, and she had pneumonia, and she keeps going, and
My
the
mother
funny
broke her
thing is,
back,
ever
and
since she used to, as Nan knows, she used to talk, constantly tell us she was dying. Well, ever since she's been on hospice, she doesn't say she's dying anymore. So I don't know what's going on.
I have quotes that I wrote down that were my mom. She's like, "Oh, I'm not going to make it till Tuesday." This was like 10 years ago. And I'm
Oh
like,
my God,
Mom,
that's my mother. That's exactly
how can I
my
make it
mother
through
said
Tuesday?
she wanted me to give her a haircut because she wanted to look her best, even if she was 6 feet under.
Well, of course.
That's adorable.
I've seen that
But
with my mother and my mother-in-law, it's nobody speaks about it, but they just keep feeding them morphine toward the end and till they have so much that they pass away.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's what happened with my dad, and I was administering it.
Yeah.
And
They've done that for
and
years.
and
Uh-huh.
and
Before.
it's a
Yeah.
way, it's a way, it's
It's
a
a way
way,
painless.
you know,
Nobody knows what's going on.
and it was, and I'm going to say this, it was my pleasure to assist him.
Yeah, my dad
It,
was begging to die, and
yeah,
a couple of days before he did, we got hospice in, and we're going to start giving you morphine, and you're not going to know what's going on, and you'll just pass away. And he's like, "Good, that's what I want," and that was okay with all of us.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Docs used to write the
It's,
order for administering morphine, and they would say until symptoms subside.
that's right. That's right.
There's only one way that can happen.
We
You
are
know,
You know, what happened?
Can't hear you, Jody.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I accidentally turned off. Usually it's my hearing aids, but this time I accidentally turned off the microphone. Whatever.
Easy to do.
Like I said, we're getting close to the end of the hour. If Jackie, Tammy, or Jam wants to pipe in, if not, it's totally fine. Sue, if there's anything you'd like to close with, thank you so much for making yourself available for this.
Yeah, really.
I
Oh,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me and letting me join in this conversation.
Well, I know you have a lot going on, so it's not like, oh, I have nothing to do. It's like,
Yeah, I don't want to do that other stuff anyway. But the whole, we got off. Seems like we got off topic with death and stuff. But that's part of the decisions that come with caregiving.
Right.
And they're so hard because there's so much guilt and feelings. And do I have the right to do this or not? And yeah, it's so hard. Caregiving is hard. It changes you forever. I've been making some notes about an essay I want to write about. You write a book about it, and then you have to keep reliving it every time you have to have another interview or discussion. But hopefully it helps people. And my book is no way out of this.
Thanks for saying that.
I will put a link to like I said, Sue writes a Substack called Can I Do It Alone? And I will put a link to Sue's website. I'm going to be posting this recording on Tuesday. I'll put a link to it's SueLick.com. Am I correct?
Yeah.
SueLick.com, which has her music, her books, it's got everything. You look a little
She's
like a
great.
rabbi in that one picture, that front picture.
Really?
Yeah, you do. You look a
I have
little
to
like
go
a
look
rabbi.
now. Does she have?
Who knows? There are a lot of
Nice.
Portuguese Jews way back, so who knows?
It's true. That's true.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Rosanna. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Nan, for reminding me I should post and not just put somebody's in the waiting room now. Hello,
Really?
somebody just joined us from the waiting room. Hello,
Hello, Christina.
Christina. Connecting to audio.
Maybe you got her time zones wrong.
That's possible. Hi,
Maybe.
Christina. We were just wrapping up. So if there's anything you'd like to say or ask, or this will be put, I've taped this and I'm going to be posting it on my Substack on Tuesday.
Hi, I'd just like to join for the next meeting if I can just know when I will be.
It is the second Tuesday. The second Saturday of every month at 2 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
And the
Eastern
login and the link is the same every week, every month, because I just thought I'm going to make my life easy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jody.
Have a safe day and a wonderful day, and keep the faith.
What a
This was
pleasure.
great. Thank you
Thank you
so
all.
much.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.